Welcome to the Elite Producer Podcast. Here, you'll find unfiltered, unapologetic perspective and training for the final expense life insurance industry. Coming to you from the great state of Texas, your host and president of Equita Final Expense Services, Chase Urich.
Hi, welcome to the first episode of the Elite Producer Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Urich. I'm excited today as we bust out the first episode here. We've got a very special guest, a gentleman who I've had the pleasure of knowing for some time now. He's definitely an elite producer. He's also an elite agency builder, mentor, trainer. I'm happy to have Eddie Milholland on with us. Eddie, how you doing today?
Doing good, Chase. How's your day going?
It is going, and it's going good. So I'm doing this first episode with you today on my birthday, as you know, and extremely excited about doing this first episode with you. We've been doing some podcasts together. We've done trainings together. So this isn't anything new to us, but the whole purpose for those listening in for this particular podcast is we want to provide perspective. We want to provide some peeking through the lens of a top producer, an elite level producer in our industry, so that you guys can maybe pick up bits and pieces of how they do what they do. That makes them great at what they do, and you're able to implement those into your business. So Eddie, for those out there that don't know you, 29 years old, no greenie to this business. You've been at it for some time now, and you're kind of a grizzled old veteran already at 29 years old. Producing six figures consistently, training and mentoring agents is now your focus. We want to dive right into it, man. You had a big week last week. You don't get to go out into the field too often, but you did last week. And what'd you put up? What was it, like 13,000 last week in personal production?
Yeah, I was right there around 12,500, somewhere in there. I was going to say, though, I got the gray hairs that are getting the veteran status coming in. So you can't see my feet. Yeah, it was right between 12 and 13, like 12,400, something like that.
It's a heck of a week, man. That's just straight production on final expense. There's no annuities, single premiums, none of that mixed in. Just straight FE production, which is awesome. That's a great number of production there and premium put on the board. Now, you also, to kind of tie into that, the thing that's really unique about that is that you were working with a new producer, somebody who was pretty green to the final expense industry, and he was kind of struggling a little bit leading up to this. And you really went out there and kind of led from the front, showed him how to do it, which was, for me, the most unique part about it and appealing part was to see you say, look, Chase talks about how I can go do 3,000 in a week on the morning call. I'm going to go out there and lead from the front here, show them how to do it, and just show them that if you trust the numbers, it can all work itself out. Tell us a little bit about that situation and that dialogue with that producer.
Yeah. He was, I think it's his second week doing final expense. He's never done final expense before. And so even during his first week, he was getting beat up pretty bad. It just wasn't having, the luck that he was looking for. He's looking to start off the bat, because you hear so many numbers, where like he can make 3,000-5,000 a week on average, at least. And so you hear that, and then he's getting beat up pretty bad. And I remember you and I had that conversation with him, and we talked about, a couple of things, mostly just trusting the numbers, trusting the system, because it does work. We've got agents who've been doing this so long, and once you've been doing it for a while, it becomes, it becomes really reliable. You know that if you say these certain things in a certain way, you'll have that outcome. You can repeat it and do it the same exact way every time. So, but when you're new, it's really scary because you're trying to feed your family. You got kids at home. But I remember you and I had that conversation with him. We're like, just put in the work, put in the hours, put in the presentations, follow the procedure that you have before you, and just trust the system, have that faith. And so he did, and this week he's been dinging away. He's been making sale after sale after sale. So he's catching up with me. I'll bet before too long I'm not to watch my back. So, which makes me happy to see.
Yeah, it's really neat to see this take place. It never gets old. As long as I've been around this almost over 14 years now, it's always fun to see somebody make that decision to jump in, take that leap of faith, get into the business, decide to get away from the W-2, become a 1099, an entrepreneur. And they hear about how great it is, because all we hear in the industry are all of the amazing stories, all the bells and whistles and fun stuff. You don't get to hear the negatives that come along with it, or the things that you really need to kind of sidestep as roadblocks. And to your credit, you were able to kind of provide insight there and say, hey, look, if you'll do this, and this can happen. If you don't, here's what is going to happen. For me, kind of going along with what you said, we teach on that daily. It's got to be those basic fundamentals in the beginning for the producer, those basic fundamentals. And we're not getting into the elite zone right now of training with anybody, but if you're listening on this podcast or you're watching on YouTube, wherever, if you're not doing the basic fundamentals or you don't have a mentor teaching you, you need to address that. Because those basics and those fundamentals, those are going to be your foundation in this industry. And that's one thing I love having you on calls, love having the dialogue with you and the interaction. I see you do it in the group chat, through social media with our people. It's a lot of fun to see. We get the basics out of the way, we lay that foundation, and then we're able to build off of it with some really elite level type training items that will help you, reduce, paid up, how to not replace but upgrade efficiently. And you gotta, as they say, you gotta walk before you run, and you gotta crawl before you walk. So with this particular person, we're both fired up about him. I know that we've talked about that ad nauseum, but with him, let's talk about some of the issues that you see typically with new producers getting started. What is some of the pitfalls and perils that they fall into that we can kind of address now, maybe diagnose for them out there if they're listening in?
Yeah. A lot of things could have an effect. But at the end of the day, what I see most new producers who get into this, at the end of the day, it's almost always just hours in the field in front of people, and they think, they're expecting it to just be easy. They're like, well, hey, I watched you do it last week. We sat down and we wrote, $2,800 just sitting with a few people. Like, it should be that easy. And then they get out there and they're kind of going off the seat of their pants, and they're not working nearly as much. I've seen people who are just, have run businesses before, and they get out there and they work 2 days a week, and they say, man, why am I failing?
Yep.
You tell them, you're working 2 days a week. You got to bump. You and I have talked about this. And you got to put in the hours. You'd be fired from a regular job if you're working 2 days a week. You can't have the results putting in part-time effort, especially in the beginning. So that's huge. Another thing I see agents doing, even new agents, and veteran agents alike, is deviating too much from the process. If you have a process and it works, like for me and my agents, I have a full script typed out. It's not necessary. I don't use it every single time. Most of my agents don't use it. It's not word for word, and when they're in their home, but it's there as a general guideline. And on the back of every single one of their lead cards, they have a flow chart that they can use, and they can follow step by step. And it's used, and it's effective because it creates the value. It gets them to verbally commit to things. It takes them through the whole sales process, and they never miss a beat. And so whenever I see newer agents get a little bit too overconfident, and they're out there, they're like, yeah, you know what? I don't need that. I don't need to print these things off. I don't need to, get brochures. And they're kind of just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yep.
And they're just showing up to homes saying, hey, Mary, do you want a policy? I mean, that may work. But more often than not, you're not developing the need. You're going to get pushed back at the end. You're not going to have any ammunition to overcome it. So really just deviating too much from the script and just not putting the hours in. If you follow the system, if you've got a system that works, and you see somebody who, if they've been in the car with me, or they've seen any of the weeks that I can have, they can see that system works. This process works. And any other agent that I've had, even brand new, Jacob Trogdon, this guy's 22, got into it, goes out and has $5,000-$6,000 days. He's followed the system, and now he can deviate a little bit, but he knows it by heart so well now. But if you put in the hours and you follow a system that works, then you can't fail. But that's the two biggest things I see.
Those are two very, very important pieces, and we're going to get to the macro here, and we're going to get basic, and we're going to talk about mundane. Going to work is a mundane topic, but for this particular first episode, I'm going to throw out there that just reiterate what you said. If your open sign is not blinking open as much as possible when you decide to first get into this industry, you're probably going to be part of that 92% that just don't make it. Because you have got to become obsessed with this business when you first get going, because you're already kind of behind the eight ball. You have the pleasure and the luxury of having fresh chargeback balances. You have no chargebacks. You're brand new. But the negative is you have got to stack, pack rat money away and save. And then when earnings start coming in, residuals, that's going to be a helping hand. But to get there and to be able to pack that money away, you absolutely have to be obsessed with the business and give yourself as much time in the field as possible. Because number one, you got to know you're going to screw some things up. You're going to butcher some presentations. You're going to butcher some door approaches. You're just going to mess those things up because you're new. That's natural. But I love what you said. Got to be in the field. And then also the system. If you are signing up with somebody and you're working with somebody who's worth their salt, they can go out there and do it and show you how to do it successfully. Why would you deviate from that? You want to be a mini Eddie Milholland. You want to be a mini me of that person. And I personally I've done it myself, and I know a lot of other producers that have. They've literally gone theatrical and got into character and become that mentor when they're at the door, when they're at the table, because they've seen them do it so many times. That's okay. I think that's actually quite healthy, because eventually you're going to kind of take bits and pieces of what they do, and after you've had success, you're going to turn that and morph it into your own. And that's where the beauty of the process and the maturation process is going to really come out. But those two points that you made are so powerful. Give yourself an opportunity. You got to go to work. Just being that simple and that blunt with it. Go to work, and then also find that system that works. And I say system to go based off of what you said. Find that mentor and just copy that person. Do what they do, and then eventually, as you evolve, you're going to turn into somebody else. So I love those 2 points, man. Those are powerful. And we talk about this all the time. So it's something for us that we're kind of grinning and having a discussion about. But for all the new producers, we say this on a daily basis to them. With this new producer, we're excited about him because he really found some success quickly after really 1 week of getting beat up a little bit, and immediately jumping back into the fire the next week, following your lead, found success. That's a lot of fun to see as somebody who pours their blood, sweat, and tears into them, isn't it?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, because it sucks because there's so many people that have a lot of potential, but they won't listen. You can tell them, hey, this is where you're missing. This is where you need to improve, but they just don't, or they sit at home and they're waiting for some magic, fairy godmother to bring them some extra money, and then they're going to get out there. And it sucks because a lot of agents fail out of this really early on, and it's always mental. It's always mental and work ethic, But it's not a hard business. It's the most simple business out there. You're just going out there talking to people, trying to help them, put them in a better place. At the same time, it's pretty complex because there are so many moving parts and things to consider. But as long as you stick with it, and you stick it out, like my first year in this, I don't know if you know this, I had 2 carriers. I had a Americo, I had Light Shield. I don't know if that's okay to say. I'm not talking about carriers. I'm not talking anything bad about them. Either
all
one.
Good.
Yeah. But I had 2 carriers, and it was rough sometimes because sometimes they wouldn't fit with either one of those, and it was hard. But you make it past that first year and through the struggles and through the sweat, and you get your system down, and you know what you can do, and you just work your numbers. Then it becomes so predictable. And the other thing I see a lot, and I have to give a huge shout out to Ben Bowman, is money management, because that's another area where new agents will just fail completely. And I was almost there. I remember, because even if you're making a lot of money, I remember looking at a bank statement at the end of my first year, and I looked at it and it said I made like $15,000 that month. And I was like, where did it go? What happened to the money? Yeah. I was out buying blocks and dumb stuff. And, so the money management part's huge too. And that's an area where I see a lot of agents fail, because if you're living at the bottom, if you're living like you're broke and you need to make a sale to pay for your leads, that's a scary and dangerous place to be. You've got to put a cushion there. You got to put a buffer. So that's another huge area. If you can get 5-10 grand in the bank, do that as quickly as possible, and you'll be a lot better off for it.
Yeah, I want to come back to the money management part, because that's a powerful topic in itself, and we've done trainings on that. You have to do trainings on that. If you're not getting a training on how to manage your money and run this like a business, you're in trouble, just because this is a business. There's nobody going to bail you out. You don't get to just show up and get a check the next day. You need to be making sure you're running it like a business. I want to talk about your perspective on your experience when you first got in, being 29 years old, successful as you are. What were some of the key areas for you that you can now look in the mirror and honestly say, I was just terrible at it. It almost cost me, knocking myself out of the business. What were those areas for you that you just sucked at, man?
Money management would be the first one for sure. That's the biggest area. Like I almost I remember calling Ben, and he gave me a system. He said, work the system. And I was smart enough to know that I didn't want to fail out of this. And so I worked the system. That's a big one. And then just keeping a consistent schedule and consistent work ethic. Those two things in themselves will, cause any producer to fail out. Making sales has never really been hard. You see enough people in a day, you book up enough appointments, you're going to make some sales. Even if you're a mediocre salesman or woman, you're going to make some sales. But the money management and the work ethic, because you have some weeks where Monday, you're like, I'm going to get out Monday. Monday rolls around, so I'm going to get out Tuesday. I didn't get to make calls Monday night. I'll just push it to Wednesday.
Yep.
You end up getting out 2 or 3 days. And that's always, that's never where you want to be. So you want to hit your goal early on. But yeah, those are the big areas. If I could go back and just kick myself in the butt, something that would have fixed that for me is having a few blitz weeks early on, because that makes your work ethic, it puts you where you need to be. Like you're working 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and you're working full days and you're seeing a lot of people. If I could have done that early on and then matched that level of production to my normal days at home, I wouldn't have struggled nearly as much. But you live and learn.
Yeah, that Blitz weeks, for everybody listening in, Blitz weeks are something that we do quite a bit. We coach up and train on those quite a bit. Bottom line is it's just keeping it simple. It's buying a lot of leads, triple, quadruple the amount that you normally would buy in an area that you normally wouldn't work, and just blowing out an area and trying to break a record, trying to write a lot of production. So if you're normally $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a week guy, you're looking to write $6,000, $9,000, $15,000 in that week to just do something you normally don't do. And to Eddie's point earlier, it's going to fill that bank account. It's going to get a little bit more cushion in that account for you, not to provide relief, that is part of it, but to reinvest back into your business. That's the biggest thing. And I asked you that question so that we could lead ourselves to the money management topic. I found over the years that's the number one reason guys fail out of the business, outside of just not going to work. If you don't go to work, you're going to fail out regardless. But poor money management was something that was stressed early in my career. And I know how pivotal it is, because if you're a W-2, you have people taking out taxes, they're doing this, you can bank on that check being there. But if you're not, and you're 1099, you're an entrepreneur, if you don't have a boss kicking you in the butt to get out and go to work every day, you better be somebody who's a self-starter. And that's one of the things I've always admired about you and a lot of the other successful people we work with, is that you can self-start. You can make sure I'm going to make this happen. And here's why: because I've got clearly defined goals. I know where I want to be. But, the part that goes along with that is to kind of go along a few phases down the process of the evolutionary trail of a top producer. A lot of people will get that system. They'll follow it. They'll have money management. Then they get a little bit of a taste of success, and they'll start doing some things they've never done before. And then they stray away from that money management and sticking to that plan, and they just start blowing money. And I've seen people who found success and almost failed out because they followed the system and then got away from it and started buying new cars and let me go get this new Beamer and all this other stuff. And you deviated from that plan about halfway through the evolutionary trail here. And that right there is a scary part also. So for those listening in, you've seen it. You've got people you've mentored that have deviated away after following and becoming successful. Stay the course the entire way.
Yeah, that's absolutely, because money doesn't want to sit still. Money wants to be spent, put somewhere, invested in something. So, save it, have a good little emergency fund, and then start investing to get back into your business or in something else where it's safe. But yeah, that's a great point, because I think we've all been guilty of that too. It doesn't look like you're spending a lot, because you look at something and it looks like a small purchase. You can make it on a daily or weekly basis, and it's like, I can write a few apps and cover this. It's not a big deal. Like Miss Mary's right down the road. She's going to buy this for me. So it starts you get a little bit cocky with it, but that's a good point for sure.
Yeah, it's because there's going to be bad weeks. There's going to be bad months where, you don't hit your normal number. That can be considered a bad month for you. If you've budgeted, if you've planned, and you've put a target on point to go after a certain target, and you don't hit it, whether it's $2,000 or $10,000, that can, adversely affect your business if you didn't budget for that. And the more money you can put away into that bank account, I think we've talked about 30,000. If you can put $30,000 away in a bank account, that's going to give you some nice cushion in case, those tough times come. which they will, because this business is full of peaks and valleys. So if you're out there right now, you're new to the business, pack rat that money away. If you're, continuing to progress and you see yourself finding success, don't get crazy. Reward yourself. Give yourself a raise, but don't go out there and buy a brand new $80,000 Mercedes or something, and then 2 weeks later you're like, oh no, I haven't sold anything. I'm getting beat up. So I want to talk about your 2020, and I want to talk about 2021 and where you guys are going, because the Challenger group, which is your group, doing big things. We're excited about you guys. 2020 was crazy. We talked about how we grew as a company, and you guys were a huge part of that. And some of the guests that we're going to see coming on over the next few weeks, they were a big part of that. Man, 2020 was a bear, but you guys just plowed right through it. Got a bunch of 20-something-year-olds on your team out there crushing. How were you guys able to just plow through 2020 when a lot of people were, I got to go telesales, I got to get out of this, but you guys just kept rolling, man. What was what do you attribute that to?
Got tired of sitting home.
That's an easy answer right there, right?
Yeah, that's it though. I mean, I remember when it first hit, I was like, oh God, I gotta sit down, I gotta sit still. And I was like, man, I can't sit still. Like, I gotta go and do something. So kids were at home, so I got an office space far away from noise. Usually I have an office at home. And we're in the field a lot, so most of my agents, they just get the same objections. We're safe about it. We had a lot of alternatives. You guys did a great job at providing alternatives and ways to safely conduct business. And there's just no reason not to. People need insurance more than ever. More people were sitting in that car than ever before.
That's true.
Were buying last year than ever before. So, eventually just, it's just a head game. And once you get past that and you stop making that excuse, we were okay. We were fine. We did just fine. Everything was back to normal. So, I'm looking at 2021 to be a huge year. One of the big things that we're going to do is just travel and do a lot of in-person training with a group, and do a lot more Blitz weeks where we go out and we show brand new agents how to have a $10,000, $15,000 week.
We were kind of robbed of that in 2020. We were robbed of that ability, right as you guys and everybody else, getting involved, to go out and see some people, shake hands, kiss some babies, do some training. We kind of got robbed of that last year a little bit, more than we normally would have.
No shaking hands, that's for sure.
Yeah, no shaking hands.
Yeah. No, definitely. And what I've noticed is, it's not the same. I can sit on the phone with an agent and talk to him hours and hours. We can go over the script, but it's nothing compares to an agent being able to get in the car with you and watch you making sales, be able to role play that conversation together, go over objections together, just to be there in person. So, I mean, the best agents that I have are agents that have either come to me or I've gone to them, and we got in the car together. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. A lot more of that, getting more experienced agents up there on stage and talking about their experiences, and just really doing some in-depth training. I love training. I love the sales industry. Like, I'm just a sucker for it. Like, I can show you my bookshelf. It's just lined with books, and I'm always learning, and I'm always critiquing and perfecting. So I'm just, I love the industry, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So thankfully I get to do it with you guys, and we're going to have a big year.
Well, we broke records last year, which was, we talked about that, and it happened one quarter after another. And I remember when the COVID stuff really bounced, and we've talked about this on other podcasts, but the fact that we did what we did as a group, as a collective, as the FS Nation last year, it was so awesome. It was for me, it was one of the most gratifying experiences to be a part of that, and see people do things that others were saying on social media and other mediums that it wasn't possible. You need to change. You need to get out of this. We adapted, and we not only survived, but we just dominated. And it was a lot of fun. I've been around this company since it was a baby, and literally since its inception. And what we did last year was, we broke records, and it just dominated. It was a lot of fun. But more importantly, to see leaders emerge last year, yourself being one of them, as we already knew you were a stud. We already knew you were going to crush it. But to see guys like you really say, hey, look, we've got to adapt. We've got to overcome here. I don't want to go do telesales. I'm not saying that that's not part of what we do, but we want to make sure our clients feel comfortable. These cards are coming in, and they're coming in at an alarming rate. Like you said, we had more leads, and our responses were better last year than ever before. We generated more leads, which obviously turned into more sales. That was a lot of fun to see you guys do that. And I do give Ben a tremendous amount of credit from the leadership perspective. Last year, we talked about what are we going to do? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? And it was a lot of fun to see that thing kind of take off and do what it did. So 2021 is going to be big, like you said. You guys have some big goals individually as builders and agency owners. You have big goals. I know we're looking to grow a minimum. Our target is a minimum of 25%. We're looking for a target of 30. So you guys are a huge part of that. How do we do that this year? In terms of, I'm throwing you on the spot here, but in terms of what your goals are with your group. I know being out there, seeing more people, working with some new producers, new to the industry. What are your goals on how you're going to get there?
I mean, honestly, that's the biggest thing. That's going to be the biggest difference here is that we're going to be able to get in front of agents and help them face to face. Hopefully, all this craziness gets cleared up very soon. That and consistently doing better training, is just constantly developing that training aspect of things. I think that lifelong training is important. And, if you make the system so easy to use that agents can just come in, plug in, and it's all basically just go from the start. We're just, I think that's what EFIS has really done consistently is innovate, constantly innovating, making new tools, making it easier. And that's what I love to see. And I'm just super happy to be a part of it and to hopefully help that innovation and keep growing like that. But, this year it's going to be better in the fact that I've got several other agents that are going to be building as well. I think that's really where it comes in. But at the same time, we're really, I think that once we get the word out there to more agents, what we offer, it's going to be a no-brainer for most people because from the free lead program that we offer, it blows anything else out of the water in this industry. Our impact programs they're just amazing. So really just getting in front of more agents and letting people know what's available to them. Because a lot of the times agents think they're in a good situation when they're really not.
Yeah.
They're starving. And that's terrible to see, but they don't know. If you don't know, you don't know. So that's my biggest goal is just to talk to more people and hopefully help them to just be better producers, to put more money in their banks and take care of their families better.
Yeah, the situation of people thinking they're in a great spot, and if they're making money, great. We talk about this quite a bit internally. We run into so many people that don't realize they don't own their book of business. We run into a lot of people that don't realize, I'm on an LOA setup where if I decide to do something different, I don't get those residuals that I've worked so hard for. I don't get those. And I'm not pointing out any particular company. So if you're watching this right now, don't flatter yourself. I'm just saying in general. But it's a setup where you work so hard to be a business owner, be an entrepreneur. Make sure you own your book. Make sure you're getting the commission levels that you deserve. And there's people that believe free lead programs aren't legitimate. And, for somebody who needs to develop capital, maybe that's important to them. So we talk about options and having options available for producers out there. And man, I'm excited about what you guys have going on this year. I'm excited about what the Challenger Group has in store. The state of the industry is something that is, for me, in my position here, I worry about on a daily basis. And I say worry tongue in cheek, kind of stay in tune with. I love where it's going right now. I love the direction it's headed because, key relationships at the carrier level, certain people will crap on relationships at insurance carriers and they don't care about you. IMO's got to do this. The key is having a great relationship with your insurance companies. And man, we've got some great ones. American Amicable, Prosperity, you talk about Royal Neighbors of America, Aetna, the whole group, the whole gambit, the carriers that we offer. We love Liberty Bankers Life. We've got such great connection with them that it makes the ease of doing business. It makes it pleasurable. It makes it a lot of fun. And what they're doing behind the scenes to bring technology in during these times has been tremendous for our business. I know you guys are enjoying it. As a collective, we are. What do you see this industry doing in the next few years in terms of technology? And there's a bright future because they keep talking about the Silver Tsunami or the Silver Wave. We call it the Silver Tsunami. There's a lot of seniors aging in. There's a lot of opportunity here, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel really lucky to be in this time where we do have, 10,000 people a day turning 65, and that's just amazing. I think, I know a lot of people think that the agent is kind of becoming obsolete. Maybe I'm not really sure. But as technology gets more advanced and people are going online to shop for things, eventually that may be the case. But a lot of the time, these people aren't going to get coverage unless you're sitting with them and you're providing a logical solution to them, because we're just not thinking about it. It's death. Nobody wants to talk about death. And so until you actually sit there and you have them admit that it's a concern for them and you have them think it through and you future pace them, they're not going to buy. So I don't think that we're going to go anywhere. Even in a lot, during this whole COVID stuff, you see a lot of people saying, well, telesales is the way of the future. It's the only way. You gotta do telesales. I disagree with that. That may be an unpopular opinion for a lot of those telesales organizations out there. But I've done telesales. I've developed a really good script, and it's worked. But at the same time, you can't beat being face to face with someone, drinking a cup of coffee, taking a look at their policy that they have that they've been paying on for years, and it's a UL that's collapsing. You can't beat that with telesales. You just can't help it the same way. So I don't think we're going anywhere. If anything, I think the sales force is going to get stronger in final expense and Medicare. I do feel like there's a pretty low barrier to entry, and it sucks for a lot of agents because they're just not made for it. And some of them kind of hurt seniors out there with the Medicare side, especially when they're just jumping in and they don't really know what they're doing. So hopefully we see a lot more leadership come into play, and people are just more educated on what they're actually selling in the industry that they're serving. But yeah, I think it's strong. I don't think we're going anywhere for a long time. Because as far as phones, and this is, you get on these Facebook groups and you see all these discussion threads about, oh, telesales is this, and I have to back away eventually. But phones are becoming more advanced in blocking spam calls and
absolutely
calls. So people don't trust people on the other end of the phone nearly as much. You can still sell to them, and a lot of them will still buy, but it's a lot harder. And I think it's going to get more difficult as we go. I don't think it's going to get easier on that end. Whereas people have to be at home, and it's still got a door you can go and knock on. So.
Yeah, you're right, man. It's we're not knocking telesales. We've got some people who we think the world of. If you're a telesales person, I'll throw out right now, call Jeff Root, Digital BGA. Jeff Root's a killer, and they've got a great setup. Not knocking telesales at all. And it's just for us, we saw during the pandemic, hopefully as bad as it'll get, that there was that look in someone's eye, and I don't want to sound cheesy, but I'm going to just throw it out there. The look in the client's eye of, I want this, I need this, it is on the forefront of my mind. We had more people reaching out this year than ever, and that's still increasing because you got to sit and think, man. They're sitting there watching the news, and this pandemic is doing this, and it's doing that, and this COVID's doing that. There's a lot of people out there that this has brought mortality to the forefront of their mind, and they need that help. They need that assistance. And so, to Eddie's point, we've had a great influx of activity. We broke records this year. It was a great year, but we think that's going to carry on, and it's only going to get better based off of the forecast, based off of the seniors who are aging in. One thing that I'm excited about this year for us is, the integration of Medicare has been fantastic. It's been absolutely huge for us as an organization. And we were doing Medicare years ago. So regardless of what the guru may tell you that, they implemented this and that, we've been doing Medicare for years. And we're only getting better at it. And you've got some people like Eddie and some of the others that are industry leaders with us that are really training others on how to do it compliantly and successfully in combination with final expense. That's powerful. You're able to help people save money on medications. You're able to get them in a better situation, and then they're able to take care of their life insurance. I'm excited about that. For me, selfishly, I love that part of us adding that in. It's a residual income for the producer, but it's a win-win for the client because they're able to save money a lot of times and get in a better situation, better setup. So, Eddie, we're going to have to do this again. We didn't even get a chance to go into it even close to what we wanted to talk about. I think we're going to have you back on literally here within the next week or so if you're free, man. I'd love to do it again.
Ready to go as long as the kids are at school and kind of on the floor. We're okay. I'm good to go. Yeah, man, it was fun. I appreciate you having me on. love to get in some deep topics with you and some, sales discussion. I know you're a nerd on that kind of stuff, and I nerd out on it too. So looking forward to it for sure.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in learning more, maybe talking to Eddie, if you're somebody out there who needs mentorship, the elite level producers that we're going to be talking to, you're going to be able to reach out to them if it's somebody that you're looking to gain mentorship, you're looking to upgrade your situation, and you want a setup that's a little bit more conducive to success. If you're struggling, these guys and gals that we're going to be having on here, they're great. They're great at helping you get better at what you do and help you hit that new goal that you've set. You want to make six figures, they can help you. You want to make, high six figures, they can help you. So we're going to have Eddie's information posted as the podcast ends. And we appreciate you, Eddie. We'll be back at it again.
Awesome. Jason. Good doing it.